You and I both know this. Part of existing in diet culture is that you are surrounded by messages as it relates to how much you should and shouldn't be eating, how many calories you should and shouldn't be eating. Honestly, the list is endless. But one of the things that comes up a lot is this idea that you shouldn't be drinking any beverages that have calories in them. I know you've heard the term, don't drink your calories. And I want to talk about it because a lot of times when we're working towards healing our relationship with food and really challenging a lot of our food beliefs and shifting our relationship with food, we get caught in old beliefs and ideas about dieting and that are very much rooted in diet culture. And you find yourself in this sticky place where on the one hand, you want to heal your relationship with food, and on the other hand, you're thinking, well, I'm still feeling afraid of sugar-sweetened beverages or foods that have calories in them. And you don't really know where to go with this and what to do with it. So we're gonna dive into all of that today.
We definitely want to take a listen to this.
You're likely already thinking, look, there is no way that I could include caloric beverages into my diet. There's no way that I could feel less fear around those beverages. If this is true, definitely stick around to the end because we're gonna be diving into how you give up these beliefs and ideas from diet culture and why actually your body can handle caloric beverages and beverages that are sweetened. But before we dive into that, my name is Catherine Metzelaar. I'm a registered dietitian, certified intuitive eating counselor, here to help you create more peace with food and your body and to help you live a more abundant life in which food and your body takes up less headspace. If you are new here, click like and click subscribe. If you're not new here, welcome back. And also as an aside, I have a little bit of a cold, so you can hear the difference in my voice today. But you know, diet culture doesn't stop, and so I wanna make sure that you are getting information every week from me, and so let's go ahead and dive in. Diet culture loves to demonize foods that bring us pleasure and joy, and one of those things is caloric beverages. And I hate that I have to even talk about calories in this context because I think that often a way that I am recommending to others to create more peace with food is to really move away from thinking about food as calories, but rather calories as energy, and that our energy needs vary each day. But nonetheless, constantly we're being recommended to drink black coffee, to cut out soda, to cut out other sweetened beverages, to even, gosh, when we go out maybe to get drinks if we're of age, to choose certain kinds of beverages so that we're drinking less of our calories. So this logic that says that you are only allowed to have a certain amount of calories each day and that somebody else somewhere knows how many calories you should be having is really flawed and is rooted very much in diet culture. If you haven't checked out the video that I made about how many calories you should be eating, I highly recommend that, where I dive a lot more into the history of nutrition labels. But nonetheless, when we're talking about whether or not you should or can drink caloric beverages, it comes from this idea that there's only a finite amount of calories, this sort of bank, if you can imagine, that you can withdraw from. And once you've withdrawn from that bank, then you're done for the day. So of course, by that logic, you are going to try to restrict where you can and cut out beverages in this case to make sure that you're not withdrawing too much. But when we scratch that bank entirely and look at things more holistically, that your body is not a bank, that it has calorie needs that vary every day, and that it can handle having caloric beverages, it no longer starts to make sense because it's not a finite resource that you get to have the calories that your body needs in a day. And in fact, it's not helpful to think about food from a caloric perspective generally anyway. Bottom line is that you don't need to ration your food. You don't need to ration your calories. You don't need to think about food as being this bank that you only have so much to withdraw from. And that sweetened beverages, caloric beverages, can very much be a pleasurable, joyful part of your day and life, and that there's no reason to feel fear around them. Common examples of beverages that I know a lot of people bring up fear around are things like orange juice and soda and bubbly waters that have sugar added to them, and you name it. I bet even right now you can think of some beverages that you either now or historically have been afraid of. Maybe you even have beverages that you grew up with and stopped drinking because someone told you that you shouldn't be drinking it because of the amount of calories or sugar in the beverage. Many of the fears related to these sweetened beverages are often rooted in this idea that you only have a finite amount of calories and why waste them on beverages, when in fact you're not wasting anything. Your body is not a bank and it can handle having additional calories. So if you're in this place where you're not sure whether or not you want to include sweetened beverages again, you're doing work around your relationship with food, but you're like, I'm not even sure where to begin with this whole sweetened beverages or just beverages in general that have calories in them. Here's a couple questions I want to offer to you and leave you with for you to get curious about. The first one is, what beverages do you enjoy? What beverages did you drink growing up? What beverages do you notice when you're going out with your friends or with your partner or other people in your life and you think, gosh, I'd love to have that? And do you even know what your favorite beverages are? Part of existing in diet culture and being stuck in cycles of chronic dieting and restriction is that we really lose touch with the kinds of things that we like. In this case, beverages. It's very common to come back to food, come back to beverages, and not really know what we like. Do we want the hot chocolate? Do we like the juice? Do we like certain kinds of juices? How do we like things to be combined? Do we like it at certain times of days? You get to experiment with this, and I think that's one of the really fun parts of creating a new relationship with food, is that we get to play with foods, and in this case beverages, in a way that we haven't before, to get to know the things that we actually like. The second question I want you to ask yourself is, are there beverages that you've told yourself you can't have? An absolute no. And if so, and I imagine you are probably saying, yes, I have some of those. If so, I want you to ask yourself, what might it be like if I allowed myself to try those beverages? And it doesn't mean that you need to start all at once. This can be something that you do incrementally. Could you try it out one time when you go with friends? Could you buy a smaller container of some kind of juice in the store? Could you begin to ease back into it? What might it be like to give yourself permission to have those caloric beverages or those sugar sweetened beverages that you have told yourself that you are absolutely not allowed to have? And I think my follow-up question to that would be, do you have any fears that arise in even thinking about giving yourself permission to have them? And then by extension, do you have any fears that you notice when you end up drinking them? Do you notice fears about your body changing? Do you notice fears of disease development? There's a lot of myths out there about sugar sweetened beverages being directly connected to all kinds of not so great things. And so just notice what it feels like to allow yourself to have those, and notice what fears come up, because that is where the magic happens. That's where you can start to unpack and understand what is driving this restriction. What have I been told? Where does this fear come from? Who told me that I am not allowed to have caloric beverages? And that will allow you to kind of untangle things and get a better sense for why these fears are there, where it comes from, and allow you to really challenge those fears that you have around sugar sweetened beverages or just beverages that have calories in them. Bottom line is that beverages, caloric beverages, don't need to be an extra. They very much can be a part of your life, because joy and pleasure matter when you're wanting to shift your relationship with food and with beverages in this case. And we really want to center that. A lot of times people will feel fear around, oh my gosh, if I give myself permission to have these beverages, I'm just going to drink them all the time. I'm going to be completely out of control, and or something bad is going to happen to me. And again, these are the juicy places left for you to uncover, to unpack, to get curious about, as to what is fueling this fear around having caloric beverages. So in summary, your body is not a bank. It's not a bank that you only have a finite amount of resources that you can pull from, in this case calories, and that if you pull too many from them, then you won't have any left in the day. Let us scratch that. Toss that out the window. Your body needs energy from food and can get energy from beverages, and that things get distorted when we don't give ourselves permission to have a variety of foods, and in this case, a variety of beverages. So if you're feeling some resistance to adding in caloric beverages back into your diet, You just get to notice that. That's a beautiful first step in noticing it. And the second thing is that I can imagine that you feel likely a fear of being out of control if you give yourself permission, fear of that you're just going to consume them all the time and it's going to turn into something that you don't want it to turn into. And if that's the case too, I just want you to know that you are not alone. So if you like this video, click like below. Let me know what you thought of this video and anything about your relationship with caloric beverages. I know that it can be difficult to talk about our fears around food and beverages, and how a lot of times our fears around beverages having calories in them are rooted in diet culture and a history of dieting in which we were told that calories are this really, really finite amount and quantity that we have every day, and that once we pull a certain amount, we no longer have any more. And you don't need to do that. That's my offering to you, that you no longer need to do that, that you can choose to do it differently, especially if you're wanting to create a more peaceful, free relationship with food. Also, don't forget to subscribe to my channel because I come here every week to talk about all things related to diet culture, body image, healing your relationship with food, and so much more. I will see you back here next week.